Thank you. Uh, Thanks everybody for being here. We have 3 hours, right? So 2.5 hours at least. So I'll take my time. So I'll do a little bit small talk before we start the real content. And and what I'm going to be doing today is not really teach you the detail or the technical knowledge of AI. Right? It's more from the perspective of management, and I'm actually get a degree from management, even though I was a mechanical engineer major when I was a student here. It is always a privilege to be here, and I really like to be here, and I ask to be here every year when I visit Taiwan, and because your Dr. Kelly Chan's arrangement, I can be here every year. And in recent years, I learned some of the life. Everybody should keep learning life lessons. I should keep thinking about what you plan to do, what do you want to do, what motivate you to do certain things. If you stop thinking about what you're trying to do, you lose the meaning of life, and then your life will become very boring. And so I always use our president as our role model, because as a joke, and then he called himself a bookworm, right? Usually every time I listen to our president speak, he would say, "I'm a bookworm," so I will share with you some of the book I read. So every year when I come back to school, did I come back last year? Oh, didn't visit you. Sorry. I was very, very busy, because I'll probably stay only 2 or 3 days. If I stay over a week, I will stay here. So, so basically what I'm going to do today is to share with you some of the book that I read in the last year, plus some of the book I read over the lifetime of my career. So I'll kind of put them together and deliver the wisdom from the real master, not from myself directly. So the title is Big Data, AI, and the Changing World. And I remember that this particular PowerPoint slide I created in 2014. And I actually delivered a talk here in 2014. And the topic was big data. The topic was big data. So big data was the hot topic back then. Right? So we have a topic. So everybody's talking about big data, so we have to be a big data expert. So nowadays, everybody's talking about AI. So I become an AI expert. But as a matter of fact, I'm not. I'm not an expert in AI. I'm just trying to share with you some of the knowledge I learned from other experts. So the poster that you see outside the door says that the topic is about AI, how AI impact the job market. But actually, the content I'm going to be showing you today here cover more than just the job market. But of course, that will be one of the most important things for you, for a student, to being here. And I know the name of this course is Service Management and Entrepreneurship, right? So that is the name of the course. Service field, theory and practice. So it's service management, right? Just like what I'm going to show you later. It doesn't matter how the name change. The content or the essence of the knowledge are the same, right? So we'll see what I can tell you from the talk. Right? Here in the next slide, I'm going to be showing you a few questions, and these are the questions I want you to think about and maybe answer a little bit before we actually get into the topic. So it's actually very broad. Let's start from the first one. The first question says, so you heard about on the job market, very soon all of you are going to be facing the life choice, just like my son. Actually, my son is sitting behind you. He is about your age. And it's actually a good thing for him to sit here and listen to me. And so this is also my advice to you, right? So some of the things that you have to find out yourself. And nobody can tell you what to do after you graduate. You have to just find your way in this real world and somehow survive. And but the question is how. And everybody seems to be everybody means that every professor. So when I say everybody, it's our group. Every professor seems to be very opinionated. Opinionated means that we have a strong ideas of what you should be learning. And once you learn this, it seems like that with the thing you learn, you'll get a job and be successful. But the reality is not that simple, right? So it doesn't matter how good you are, and when you get into the wrong environment or when the environment change, everything will change, and some of the skill will be obsolete. And in the future, a lot of this new stuff you don't really know. So going back to yourself, and you might ask yourself, what should I do at this particular point in time? What should I prepare, right? And there seems to be some formula. For example, you're sitting here, and obviously you learn English as a second language. So that's pretty good, right? But is that enough, right? And for many of you, you're also learning Chinese language. And how good you, maybe I ask you, how good you are in Chinese language? Let's start from the first row. Rune. It's not roommate. Rune, all right, Rune. Rune, say something in Chinese. Not bad, actually. At least I can understand. But anyway, so the key is, will learning Chinese be enough? Right? And for the student from locally in Taiwan, you might ask yourself, well, why don't you learn some Indonesian or learn some Vietnamese in the process of your learning? You have so many classmates coming from different countries. Why don't you learn their language, right? But that goes to another more complicated question. Which language you'll be learning? Because every language process is a very long process. So how much you want to get into, how much time, and we all have a lot of things coming to our life. So every time that a midterm exam coming, you will stop learning and doing some other thing, and very quickly, you seem like doing everything, but nothing can get done, right? So that's a dilemma for everybody, right? Including me, including probably, I think that our president, all these successful professors feel the same. You know, we are struggling with this thing, learning, enrich ourselves, and try to find a direction, even at our age. And well, I shouldn't be saying that I'm retiring, but actually I'm planning to retire in about 5 to 7 years. But that's another story. So the question list here is actually a training, right? So I don't know how good an interaction our class is right now, but in the past, when I was a student in this school, we usually just sit there and listen to professor and write notes, and that's it. But it become more and more important to ask questions. When you are asking questions, not asking only to your professor, but ask yourself. Can you answer the question yourself? And to answer your question, there are several ways, in life. One is, of course, you read. You go do research. You Google. You find answer, or you ask expert, right? Professor, friends, opinion, or you try to derive the answer yourself. Use your reasoning ability, try to come up with the answer. So these are the training by asking questions. So I kind of stay on this slide I will stay here for a very long time. This particular slide for a very long time for that particular reason, right? Just for you to ask yourself, can you answer that question? And a lot of these questions I put in here, I cannot answer them myself, but I do have some way of trying to come up with an explanation or some sort of the reasoning I can convince myself. At least there's something that I can follow, right? This practice is like another advice that I usually give to especially this is a graduate school student. You are entering the age that you should be considered your financial future. We're in business school, right? This is business school, business and design, right? You are entering the future that you have to consider yourself. How do you make sure you're financially stable or sustainable in the long run, right? So how do you feed yourself? One of the things that when the student come to my school in the afternoon, we have a panel talking about how to go to United States school. So all the international students come to my school, I recommend them when they have a opportunity using F1 visa in the United States, try to open a investment account, right? Buying stocks, buying mutual fund, and try to make sure that you are established early in time. Uh, and I actively involved in the financial market myself, just try to make extra bucks to compensate my professor's salary, right? I'm doing okay. I mean, I have reasonable success over the past 10, 20 years, so make some enough money to buy a new car for my wife and that sort of thing. Um, so, oh, is it? But so it's going back to the story. Investing in the financial market is pretty much like everything you do in your life, right? So you will be facing a lot of choice. So say, for example, nowadays, if we ask you, if you have like $10,000 or $100,000 in your pocket, Taiwanese dollar, and you don't want to obviously put them into a saving account. Their interest rate is so low that you don't make any money in the checking account or saving account. So you want to put them into some asset that can grow in terms of value, right? So you want to say, for example, you want to buy stock, right? So in Taiwan, we say, okay, you buy Taiwan Semiconductor, right? But when you are really getting to the financial market, what you're actually thinking is what? Well, the stock of the Taiwan Semiconductor is so expensive. I think the price now is 500, 600 Taiwanese dollar per share. And if you because in Taiwan the financial market is more restricted, you have to buy 1,000 share every time. So 500 multiplied by 1,000 is $500,000. So you need to have $500,000 to invest in Taiwan Semiconductor, right? So that's too much. So you have only $100,000. What do you do? So you have to looking for other target. So people will start giving you advice, or you start doing research, right? So they will tell you, okay, yeah, maybe we should buy something that related to Tesla. So you go find all the battery making factory in Taiwan to see if they have a public offering. But very quickly you will find out there are so many options out there to choose from. So which one you go for? And of course you will do more research, try to study their management style, try to read their financial statement to see if they are making money. But still, after you do all this research, you still hang in a very critical decision. This critical decision is, this is your lifelong working, the lifelong investment. This is the first big bucket of money you want to put in somewhere. You might have the chance of losing them all because you invest in a company, if it go bankrupt in 2 years, you lose all the money, right? So what would you do, right? And 70% of people, because 70% of people are risk averting person. This I have to ask my wife. Is that number correct? Most people are risk averting. It's not risk seeking. So most people are more conservative. Will decided to keep the money in a very safe place. But over time, you will find out those money will not grow anywhere. So again, that scenario, that whole thing is about buying this stock and going, actually telling you that it's just like life is like buying that superstar stock. Very difficult. You have so many choice, but whenever you try to make a choice, it's hard, right? So what should we do with it, right? And well, that's kind of continue. That kind of go off track of the topic a little bit. But anyway, the second question is, well, I think the slide, the way I arrange the content is pretty much based on the sequence of the question here. The second question is, now we have this new high-tech or cutting-edge stuff, big data, AI, business analytics, and people always tell you, learn some business analytics, you will find a job. Well, is that true? Or should I go directly into AI? And what is the difference between AI and business analytics, and how they related? And those are the questions If you do not understand it, you cannot really make a decision. And we have to sort of try to study and figure out what to do with it. Once you understand that, it's kind of like, again, you understand a particular company where you invest your time or money into that particular scenario. How does this thing can do for us? And if you choose, say, for example, you graduate out of the IMBA program, and you look at this COVID-19 situation, like you cannot find a job. Like my son, he cannot find a job because of the pandemic. And what should you do? Maybe the best thing is to invest yourself, right? Probably spend 3 months try to get a certificate. And but again, the question follow is what kind of certificate you'll be getting. Will you go learn Python? Everybody talking about learn Python. Is it true that if you learn Python, you find a job? Let me guarantee you, if you learn Python in the next 3 months and you come out of the market, then you still cannot find a job. It's because there's so many people who know how to write Python, and I have been an entrepreneur myself in the past. So when I hire people, I know that it's not what language you know how to use. I mean, programming language, how to use. It's how good you are in terms of a person, how organized, how reasonable, and how analytic you are to make you a good business analytic person. Not the language you know. You can know 10 languages, but I still don't want to use it, right? Because you don't know how to solve problems, right? So that is actually a keywords. I'm kind of review the keywords here. It's called the problem solving. So problem solving is probably the biggest skill that can be taught or can be learned in a business school environment, right? So even though that everybody's talking about problem solving, but do you really know what problem solving is? What exactly you do in problem solving, right? If a professor's projector doesn't work, you come and fix it. Does that mean that you know how to solve a problem, right? So that kind of thing need to be thought. And say for just follow the technology as an example. You probably notice this a lot as a more previous generation professor. We have this technology barrier already. A lot of us using cell phone. The projector or the smart device not as good as you are. And a lot of time in my classroom, my student will come to my podium and fix stuff for me, right? But does that mean that the student is better than me in problem solving, right? So if they're not, obviously you want to say they're not. I'm a professor, I'm better, right? What exactly I'm better than my student, right? So that's I hope that you can get the answer yourself after we talk today. So that is second question here. The third question here is, well, actually it's already answered. So once you know all these important technology or potential future that you might invest yourself in, and how do you prepare yourself to do? And to prepare yourself to do that is an even more complex question, because other than knowing yourself and prepare yourself to be capable, you also need to know the environment. You need to know what the world is going to be changing. And of course, nobody knows the future. Nobody knows how the future will look like. But can we at least try to guess, educated guess what's going to happen in near future? Now, in Japan, there is a futurist author. He recommend, I forgot the name already, but 大前研一. I forgot the name in English. 大前研一. So this I call him futurist because he always tried to predict the future. He talked about the third wave. He talked about the fifth wave or fifth discipline or something along that line. If you go to the bookstore, I think you can find his book, right? 大前研一, that's the name. I forgot how to pronounce that in English. But anyway. So he has a recommendation. I read his book when I was probably a PhD student, in the U.S. He recommends that for young people like you and me, me back then and you nowadays, is that you shouldn't be looking for 10 years down to the road. You cannot guess 10 years down the road, but you can see more or less likely 5 years in the future. But 5 years more predictable than 10 years. Really, 10 years ago, I went to China for the first time, and China after 10 years is a totally different country. Just simply 10 years. Taiwan changed slower, but still there are a lot of things changed. So, for example, from last time I visited here to today, is I noticed some of the change. One is that you see that when I enter the parking garage downstairs, now the entrance is image processing, is visual recognition system. Try to record the entrance and exit of the car. It was not there 10 years ago. There has been many years already. That's my fault. That's my fault. Yeah. So it was. Yeah. Kenichi Omai. Kenichi Omai. Kenichi Omai. Yeah, that's the name. Kenichi Omai. 大前研一. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, 5 years. Right. So 5 years in the future, what can you predict? Right. And some of the information or the material that I collect from here are the book published in 2018 and 2019. So the information getting here is already in the AI age. Is already old. It's kind of 1 and 2 years behind. But we can probably verify to see if the thing is going on as predicted as what some of the author that predicted in the future. So looking down 5 years, so the correct answer, the question to ask here is, in 5 years, this year is 2020, 2025, what do you anticipate or think that AI can do for us? Will the so-called driverless car be more reasonable and more real, right? I think our campus has a driverless car program from mechanical engineering, my home department, right? So I was actually planning to, I'll probably visit a couple of weeks later to see that driverless car project, right? So how soon will that driverless car project become commercialized, right? How soon the Tesla driverless car will be running around the highway, right? So that's a question we should be asking ourselves. And how soon the robot will replace some of the job we do, and in 5 years, right? So that's the thing. So if you think in that direction, then you can answer the following question: is what kind of job you should be looking for, right? So what kind of job you looking? Should I be working as an accountant, or like my wife is an accountant? Some of you may end up going to the accounting field because you're coming from business school. And very soon you will find the accounting is probably the area that has more job opening. So even though you are not accounting major, you still can get an accounting job, right? So that is the thing that, so what you should be doing as a business school. Will you be, so let's ask a question, say somebody from the back, Austin, because you're looking at me, I'm Austin, right? Austin. I have a question for you, right? So if you put yourself in 5 years in the future, what kind of job you anticipate yourself will be doing? Oh.
For me, I think it's the harder questions because for me right now, I'm just thinking about because I want to open a small business like the coffee shop.
Coffee shop.
Yes,
So you want to open a coffee shop.
yes.
Will coffee shop be replaced by more like a vending machine, more sophisticated robot?
No.
What if that they have a coffee shop that just use robot?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Yes.
Why?
Because I can do the business myself.
So you will not visit a coffee shop run by robot. That's
Yes.
Is that I'm putting an answer to your mouth? Right. Okay, let's leave that question for now, and I'll come back probably later to ask you the same question and push you on what AI can do or cannot do, right? So, and well, maybe we should follow that question directly in here. That would be a good idea. That's actually the question I was looking for. But the future might be, this is my prediction, not necessarily true, right? Will be that you will not see a robot serving coffee, but you will see a more, like in Starbucks, how they control the quality of the coffee. Because, in the earlier day, they actually invest a lot in standardize their coffee maker, the machine that used to make coffee, right? So they have this, I forgot the name of that. We actually, 10 years ago I was here, I was talking about Starbucks. I actually did research on Starbucks. They invest a lot of money try to design their coffee machine, right? So and using that coffee machine, they train their barista, the person making coffee, and so make their job more standardized, pretty much like a McDonald's version of the coffee maker, right? In the future, this kind of thing, what we call automation, will go more and more. So you will see more and more of this automated coffee probably roasting. And actually, Starbucks is building two flagship coffee shop. One in Chicago, the other one is in Seattle, right? So they have two coffee shop. I think they call the coffee shop some sort of a coffee lab. Don't know exact name they call that. Some kind of lab. So you go into the coffee store. They are not only selling you coffee, and they will show you the entire process of from the fresh coffee being baked the coffee, grind the coffee, and you can actually customize your production process. And I think now you have to make an appointment to go into that shop. But I think one in Chicago, the other one is in Seattle. But anyway, I haven't visited that yet, by the way. So they just opened up. The robotic way. So they have this production and everything done by machine. Then you sit there. It's still human. Open window. You're talking about open window service or open kitchen. That's an open kitchen service to see the back office, the back operation. But that is the service operation. We're going to be going back this topic again, right? But anyway, so rolling back again to the question of what the future coffee shop will look like, right? And if the future, if in 5 years the coffee shop will still look like the Louisa coffee shop. If you open let's put in this. If you open the coffee shop exactly like Louisa, do you think you can compete with Louisa? Of course not, because they are already established, their brand. So if you want to build a new coffee shop, you must be doing something different, right? So if you want to use the AI to build a coffee shop for you, what you can do with this thing, right? That is, I think, the thing I want to get into in the next few slides. I have, and this, by the way, this particular talk I designed for my MBA student in our school in October this year. So some of the materials are very new, and I do have some video, but I don't want to play the video. This particular slide has some video, but I will skip the video, right? No, that's right. So and this slide will be shared to everybody, so you can click on this video, and basically there are two videos, even though there are 4 links. There are 2 videos. One video is a automatic driving bus in northeastern China. So the driverless car or driverless bus is already commercialized, right? So it's not really in the future. It's today, right? It's just that it's not populated around the world. So it's there already. The second set of video is the technology I teach. I teach database in my school. So it's something called an autonomous database. So basically what you will see when you look at this video yourself is that now they will probably, in 5 years ago, I would recommend my student, you want to get into the business world, and one of the skills you need to learn is Excel. You need to be very good at Excel, because you need to be able to draw the chart, bar chart, pie chart from the data, and try to come up with some sort of a convincing story to explain or to make decision, right? So, but today the story might be changing, because this autonomous database, it's called autonomous because they don't need you to know Excel. The machine knows Excel. So when the data is there, so you just go run your business, the data keep collecting the database. They build a chart automatic for you. They just, you just say, well, I want to see the report. You click report. There are 20 reports for you to select from. Just like I want this chart, that chart. And you have pretty much everything you need to know. You don't need to learn pivot table because the autonomous database already done the pivot table for you, right? So that is how I think to me is actually scary, right? Because a lot of these jobs will be obsolete and very soon. And the next few pictures I'm going to be showing you are technology that doesn't seem to be very fancy, right? It's very common technology, but and those are my pictures, so it's I have the copyright. So these are technology, not very fancy, but very interesting and useful. And in usual situation, we call this application of technology. So there, some things already out there. We try to apply them, right? And interesting enough that you don't see a lot of these interesting applications going on in recent years in the Western world, United States, Europe, or if we consider Taiwan is following the Western world. You see all these innovations, creativity coming out of China. So all these pictures are taken from China. And this is a place that in 1 year you see this bike sharing application everywhere, and next year it's all gone. And they come up with new stuff. And the new stuff may come in 1 or 2 years, and next year it will be gone. But of course, over time, there are certain technologies surviving and to the end, right? And so obviously on the left upper corner, you see that bubble tea. And that picture was taken in a shopping mall in Shanghai, right? And right next to the store, I forgot which side, there's another Taiwanese bubble tea called Yifang. And they opened this to compete with Yifang, selling the same product, the bubble tea product, with a robot there. So robot vending machine, robot coffee shop can be done very easily already with the technology we have today, right? In the middle part is not really high tech, but this is a picture I took in Shandong province. I think my wife was there. And this is from their capital city in Shandong province. And the city, the nickname for the city is called the Spring City. Spring, water coming out of the ground, Spring City. Not the spring, winter, summer, spring, but spring city. So the Spring City means that particular city has a lot of spring coming out of the ground. So it become a tourist attraction in that area. And last year, in 2019, there was a drought in the Spring City. So even the Spring City does not have water coming out. So all the spring are kind of moving very slow and not looking very well. And obviously they are rationing water. So they are trying to control the water. So this is a roadside water fountain. You drink water fountain, right? So we still have water fountain here. So the water fountain here is what, automatic? So you put your glass there or a mug there, or you push the button, you'll go, right? And this is the innovation because they try to control the water, right? So what you need to do in order to use this particular water fountain is you need to scan that QR code use WeChat. Right? Use WeChat to scan. So every time you scan, the water will go 10 seconds. And you can scan again, you will go another 10 seconds. You can scan the third time, you go 10 seconds. When you try the fourth time, it won't let you use it anymore, right? So give other people a chance to use it. Right? Nothing fancy, but and QR code. In China, people use QR code very often, more often than we're using here. But it's not some fancy technology. But when it's applied in an innovative way, it becomes useful, kind of useful, and a lot of these small innovations are coming off that direction. And this is again just to conclude from this slide. And the next one is the key here is application. So when you have a technology like now today we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence, how do you apply artificial intelligence in a ingenious way? So the person usually making money out of the original technology are not the people who invent the technology. The people making money are usually people use the technology or use that particular ideas or innovations or things, right? The kind of sidetrack a little bit because we have a lot of time, so I want to kind of tell you a lot of story. Starbucks, we just talked about coffee shop, right? Starbucks. If you read a little bit about Starbucks story, you will know that the Starbucks from the original owner's idea, Starbucks was stolen by the current CEO of Starbucks. So they think, the owner think the current CEO stole Starbucks because the current CEO called Howard Schultz. His name is Howard Schultz. Howard Schultz is actually a salesperson. He's a sales, try to sell coffee machine to Starbucks. But he ends up buying the Starbucks and become the CEO and make the Starbucks public company. Another example will be McDonald's. There is a movie called, what is the name of the movie? There's a movie talking about the Storeville McDonald. McDonald went through the same process. The original owner of McDonald was bought out by the, I forgot the name, but this today I'm talking about. But you see a lot of these companies, they went through similar process. The salesperson, the financial person took over the company. The original idea, the original owner come up with the idea of the McDonald's, Starbucks were not actually the most beneficial person in the process. Same thing here. When we look at AI, when we look at all these technologies, semiconductors and things, you will find that the company advanced most in that direction is not a company benefit from direction, right? A lot of examples, just two more, right? Do we need to take a break during the process? Yeah, we'll take one break in the process, right? Story including, we know that the company come up with this idea called the personal computer, PC, was IBM, right? But did IBM make a lot of money from PC? It depends on how you look at that picture. But if you do relative comparison, the answer is no. The person benefit from PC revolution, IBM PC revolution, was the Gates, Microsoft. So, Bill Gates. Thank you. I don't know what happened. I'm getting old. Bill Gates was the person, or the Microsoft is the company benefit from the PC revolution. PC revolution. The company invented the cell phone. Cell phone. Anybody know which company invented cell phone? Try another person. Tony. Make a guess. Which company come up with the first cell phone? Cell phone. Portable. Nokia. Good guess, but wrong. Motorola. Yeah, you're good. Yes, Motorola come up with the first generation of the cell phone. But Motorola actually not benefit from the cell phone industry. So the question is why all these company come up with the technology does not benefit from technology, right? Because usually the answer is that the people know how to apply or make it more useful. become the person generate that actually benefit from that technology, right? So I'll jump to the previous slide is another example. I just skip. These are the automatic or kind of very crappy. This is actually university what pickup center. So when you order a lot of stuff from online, so this is Taobao, right? You order a lot from Tmall or Taobao in China. In here, you probably buy, say, from PC Home. You buy from PC Home, you ship to your dorm. So I don't know how the process go here, but this is what happened in China's in one of the universities in China. So all the package will go to one central location. It's more like a small warehouse, and you see all the rack in the back end, right? And when the package arrive, and they will just put your package on the rack, and they will send you a text message. Says, okay, your package arrived, and there is a retrieving code. And you take that particular code, you go there and find your product. It's kind of like here. I think we have this box. You open the box and you can pick it up. And this is more rudimentary. Some place has a fancy box, and so you pick them up. And no person monitor and try to control who is going to be stealing the stuff or not, because everything is videotaped. So if you steal some other people's stuff, and they will take the video and try to find out who you are, and it's all facial recognition enabled, right? So and so on and so forth, right? So again, the conclusion is that application, right? So think about application. How do we apply artificial intelligence? And if you can apply artificial intelligence and link into the previous question, how do you position yourself, your job in there, and that become more feasible? So it's not people who know how to write the machine learning program who can make a lot of money. It's a person who is a good friend of that programmer and steal that particular program and try to commercialize it. Try innovatively using new technology is more important, right? So this is the change over time in the information world, and I put a picture there that says big data, and there is a tombstone there, right? Meaning what? Meaning big data is dead already, gone. Actually, it's not gone. And actually, I put a Chinese words in there, and another opportunity to test how good you are learning Chinese. Song answer already. On, un, an. Do you know how to read that? 不知道那个字。Anybody non-Chinese speaker know that phrase down there? This is a political phrase when I was an elementary school student that we learned. And this is a phrase describe communism or communist ideology, right? So basically it says, let me translate literally. Quantity change leads to quality change. Quantity change leads to quality change, right? So used in a social movement works something like this. If you want to run for president, right? So if you want to run for president in Taiwan, what you should be doing? You should grow this quantity first, right? You don't want to say, well, I have an ideal, I have a perfect world, utopia that I want to build. No, you have to grow your group of people. Quantity is more important. When you have the number, then you talk about how to change the world. If you don't have the number, you don't need to talk about how to change the world. So that's what sort of like, there's a long story about how the battle between the nationalist ideas and the communist idea in the Chinese history or China history. But that was the phrase used. But it worked perfectly in the world we are today. So what happened here is quantity change is big data. So when quantity change, it leads to quality change. What kind of quality change? AI quality change. So artificial intelligence has been around for a very long time. So when I was so when we talk about say facial recognition, machine vision, this is one of the AI area. When I was a student here, as a mechanical engineering student here, we were talking about visual, the machine visual recognition already. We were looking at the production line, and there will be camera taking picture of all these all these parts that we are trying to produce on the production line, and using the video camera to measure the tolerance of the part we are building. It was there already. But why does suddenly become a cutting edge? It's not a cutting edge, it was there. AI was there already. It's because of the quantity change. Our ability to handle, because in the past, we probably, every time we see one product, and we measure the dimension of the product using the computer by taking a picture, and the picture will be going to a computer, and there's a program calculating and measuring the shadows, and then do all these estimation and come up with the number. That process probably take 1 or 2 minutes. But if you're running a production line, it's not 1 minute. You have to run 500 every second, right? So that would not be feasible in the past. The technology was there, but because our machine was not fast enough to handle the speed of production, so it was not actually used. It's much cheaper to invest in a person sitting in a production line trying to measure every one of them. But nowadays, AI, being the quantity change, that leads to the ability we can use AI to replace human being to do this repeating job that you're doing in the past, right? So that is actually one of the key conclusion, actually message I want to give it to you. Is actually one of the answer I can give it to you today is a lot of the things that we see that what's going to be happening in the future is you need to observe and try to be very sensitive to a certain phenomena start growing in number. So nowadays, when I see every time I have a chance to see a Chinese friend, or people from China, I always ask them the question, because part of the reason because I'm investing in some of the Chinese company. One of the question I ask them is, on all these video sharing platform, right? And there are many different kinds. There are, in the U.S. we use, at least in my generation, we use YouTube, right? Use YouTube. But you go to China, of course, they have Youku, traditionally. They have iQIYI. They have Tencent video, Xiaomi video, and more recently that you see the Douyin or TikTok come out with a different way of doing things. Or the other one is called the Bilibili. Right, Bilibili. So I always ask them, what do you use more often, right? And of course, different generation of people has different answer and sort of thing. But you always want to look at what young people are doing. Young people mean high school student or college freshmen. Ask them what they are doing, what kind of a thing they're doing, right? So in most recent answer, my sample size is very small, probably 10, 15 people coming from different age, right? So most of my students are in your age, so you are considered old already. In terms of future prediction. We want to see somebody in more lower rank, younger generation. I asked them, well, it's very popular TikTok. Do you use TikTok? They said, no. I use Bilibili more often. Younger generation use Bilibili more often than TikTok. It's actually a surprising answer to me. And my student asked, a couple of my students just went back to China because of the pandemic. I asked them, most of them use TikTok more often. But I said, well, I don't want your answer. Ask your brother. Yes. Bilibili is a video sharing website. It's just a BILI.com. I think BILI.com. Bilibili. It's like YouTube. But Bilibili originally was a website sharing the animation video game. People playing video game, and that was something that totally cannot understand. Because my younger son, he is a college freshman nowadays. So when he was even younger, he would sometimes create video of people playing video game and post it on YouTube. And I was surprised. Why would you people watch other people's recording of playing video game? Why don't you watch the live game? People now they're broadcasting now, but it was something I do not understand. Because to me it will be more fun for myself to play, not to watch other people to play. But probably they want to watch other people play so they can learn from how to play from other people. But I try to figure, but still that every one of this video, even he's a pretty bad player, but his video still got 500, 1,000 views. So that was surprising to me, and very, very strange. So those are the phenomena I was talking about that we have to observe. So because a lot of young people are doing this, now it will lead to some revolution change. So we have to always be very sensitive of what this young high school student or freshman, first year college student, what they are doing. And because what they are doing will be 5 years down the road will be more mainstream. Right? It's not what you are doing or I am doing will be the mainstream. It's what they are doing will be the mainstream. Right? So that is something I think a hard lesson I learned. So in recent years. So this is something what happened So I go into Google Trend. This is called the Google Trend. One of the tool you can study something what we call the social signal. So we study social signal, what people are searching for and this data, of course, is coming from United States. So I put 3 keywords: big data, data analytic, and AI, the 3 keywords I put on my slide here. So to see how popular they are. Obviously, AI is more popular than the other 2. People search for AI. So over time, it seems to be the mainstream. So talking about big data, obviously, is not good enough. But there's something, correlation we can probably see also from here. Business analytics slowly going up. Big data has a big hump. And AI seems to be going up after a certain point in time, right? And there's many ways to make interpretation on this chart. But let me point to one particular pattern here. You see this hype, right? Let's call this hype or upward trend for big data at this particular point in time. This is the point of time big data trigger artificial intelligence to go upward. Right? Again, that is actually the evidence of this. So when big data become reality, it triggers artificial intelligence. So the big data is the quantity. Artificial intelligence growth is the quality change. So artificial intelligence was not a real commercialized available options or feature in the business world, probably somewhere until 2015, right? And that particular historical moment happened, in the year following happened, a lot of things happening. In Google, there was a technology called AlphaGo. AlphaGo, it's Taiwanese called this AlphaGo. AlphaGo. So AlphaGo was defeating the Go championship in Korea in 2016. Right, in 2016. And that particular point is called, there is actually a term, somebody already coined the term, it's called a Sputnik. S-P-U-N-I-K. Sputnik or Sputnik. If you have a cell phone, you can search for that word. It's called Sputnik point. Let me ask some of the student the background. Wusong? You haven't searched Sputnik. You're.
Haven't heard about that name.
You heard about it?
Haven't.
S-P-U. I don't know if I spelled that correctly. Alex, did I spell that correctly? Sputnik. S-P-U-N-I-K. You don't know what it is? I maybe spelled that incorrectly. Sputnik, S-P-U-N-I-C-K, Sputnik, Sputnik, Sputnik. Okay. If you cannot find it, it's my fault because I cannot remember that exact spelling. This is the first satellite was launched into the space by Russian people, by the USSR. Sputnik. Or you can search for the first satellite. Sputnik, right? S-P-U-T-N-I-K. Sputnik. You know that? How do you, Sputnik. Sputnik, okay. Sorry, I'm not a native English speaker, so I have somebody monitor my talk here today, right? So this is a comparison of artificial intelligence to the space race, the space satellite landing on the moon back in the 1960s, right? So when USSR launched the first satellite into the orbit, the whole United States went panicked. Say, what's going on? The communist world, the red curtain is actually winning in technology compared to the United States, right? Same thing happened today. 2016, when the United States AlphaGo beating the Go traditional Oriental game by human being, the most complicated game, board game by human being, was beaten by artificial intelligence. Nothing happened. Nobody actually very care in the Western world. I believe including Taiwan. You don't see a lot of this thing about how important that is. But it was a super big event in China. So the Chinese society said, wow, United States beating the people playing Go. We should follow up. That's when the Chinese government start investing, putting a lot of money into artificial intelligence, right? And that is something that we see today, that some of the information I want to share with you. Because other than knowing what to apply in the future, you also need to know what world is going to be changing. Our world today is basically Chinese versus United States. So you need to know how they compete with each other and who's going to be winning out and what's going to be surviving in the process. Because that's where you're going to be looking for your job, right? Because you need to know who is winning and what kind of technology is winning, which company will be winning. That is where you should invest yourself in, right? So that's what I'm getting into here. Okay, so this is a time to take a break. Share with you a comic and says, okay, we don't really know, including me. We talk about AI. I'm coming from information system department, but do I really know AI? Nobody can claim that you are AI expert, so we don't really know. Okay, let's take a 5 minutes, 10 minutes break. 10 minutes break, so I can drink some coffee, refresh myself. Okay, we can come back to the class. So we spent an hour and a little bit more than 1 hour to just to sort of like a warm up. So now it's about time to give more content, and probably I will also stop in the middle to ask you a few questions, but more stuff will coming up. And this is a picture I downloaded from my textbook, the textbook I used to teach my undergraduate student. Right, so it talks about the timeline in terms of the data movement. How do we use data in the business world in particular? This book is written for business world, but it's pretty much at the time I was a student. We call them decision support. So it's decision support system back in the 1980s and 1990s, and now in the 2010 was called social network analytic big data. But now, of course, you see that moving past 2010 is called artificial intelligence, machine learning. And so these are, but they are all related to each other. And actually, my PhD training was in a discipline we call operation management. And in operation management, we learned a lot of this machine learning algorithm already back in 25 years ago, in 1990. Right, so we will look at some of those algorithms and explain to you what those algorithms are used for. And this again is a slide with some of the questions. I have some pre-designed answer for you very quickly, right? So we'll just kind of go through some of you to get the answer. So the question here, so earlier in the previous hour, there are actually two important points I want to repeat. One is artificial intelligence is technology need to be applied. So application is important. Second thing is this quantity leads to quality change. So a lot of things that when more people or more, the phenomena grow to a certain critical point, then it will start to become a long-term phenomenon. So that the quantity lead to quality change is important. So now it's about time, because we know that data is reached to a critical point that will lead to change. So what is the quality change? So that is actually the questions coming up. What is data used for? So when you know what the data is used for, then you will know what data will change something that into the future, right? So very quickly, I know that you have a lot of answer here. So let's go from here. Mia, what do you think data is used for? Create, report. So reporting, data is used for reporting. Can I put that as an answer? Okay, good. Data is for reporting. Chi-Chen, what data is used for? Insight. Do problem. Understand the inside of a problem. Understand the inside of a problem. I already asked Michael and Austin. So Victoria.
For me, I think like the data is like for the reference.
Reference.
Yeah, it's
For
like
historical record, something you can search, look back.
It's
for.
like look back what you already done, and like you can deeply understand that.
Okay, so let's stop here for a while. All these answers are correct, but they are all very classic. Try something more innovative, creative. So what data is used for? What can you use data for? All right, let's go from, I already have some. Yeah, so our professor want to say something. Improve the quality of the decision. That's an exactly textbook answer. That's textbook answer. Actually, I have that in here, but yes, that's a conclusion. You just reviewed that conclusion, but something more innovative. Did I ask you a question already, Renee? Okay, so parfum. testing, forecasting, predicting, forecasting. That's better. Forecasting. Forecasting is more important than reporting, than insight. Well, insight is in a way you want to get some forecasting, but all leads to decision making. Yes, decision making. Yeah, because I think Professor Young has the same training as I am. So we are all in the operation management field. So that's why. Sin. You are searching for answer on your phone. So you are caught. So what is data used for? Forecasting. So predicting, forecasting. Anybody else want to come up with something and move forward? Your opportunity to shine. Ken, you see it on the far side. That is my video game name, From the Far Side. So From the Far Side. Right. That's okay. Don't worry. So why not? When you watch movie, are you using data? Are you consuming data? When you play video game, are you using data? Right. Would that be an industry? Would that important in business world? Feel sense. When you are driving, I don't know if you drive on the highway here or not. And when I was on my way here, you see all these signs says how many minutes to somewhere, and you check the weather to see if next 5 days or 10 days, right? It will impact your feeling, your mood, and you want to anticipate how long. I mean, how long I'm going to be arriving. The president was waiting for me. How many minutes I need, and I look at my GPS. It says 8:40. And it dropped down to, because I drove a little bit faster, become 8:35. And when I reached the Lincoln traffic, it dropped to 8:55. I said, "Whoa, that's But after I turn here, you come back again. But those are you change. But of course, the textbook answer is decision making, right? And Professor Young already get that. And all these are part of problem solving. I don't know if you recall that at the beginning of my talk, I was talking about a problem. You need to know a problem, how to solve the problem. Am I a good problem solver, or how do I become a good problem solver? So the overall thing is that we need to be a good problem solver, right? So if you want to be a good person applying AI in the future, 5 years down the road, you need to use AI to solve some kind of problem. Somehow this is your skill. Right, so this is a skill you need to somehow get into. Do your professor has that skill? Most of the professors grow to our age with this academic training, has some sort of problem-solving skill down there, but they do not have what your intelligent capability. Intelligent meaning the ability to collect new data, right? To collect. So, sure. Oh, of course. Oh, yeah, often. Wang Dong. So should I introduce? Yes, let's take a break for 10 minutes, because we are.
Yeah, 所以要进去喝个茶吗？好吗？
Okay, let's take a 10 minutes break and I'll come back. We will look at problem solving. So we have a small conclusion about decision making and problem solving, right? So now let's take a look at the opportunity in AI from the perspective of problem solving. So how do you make yourself become a good problem solver, right? And actually you are learning in every class you're taking in school, right? So, but I want to share with you some of the things that at least from my training, I know more. We call them guru, right? So let's take a look at one of this artificial intelligence guru, what he is trying to say about artificial intelligence. This person, maybe some of you know, his name is called Herbert Simon. He was the Nobel Prize winner of 1978. Yes, I remember it correctly. And if you read a little bit here, he helped lay the groundwork for such fields as artificial intelligence and cognitive psychology. Right? But his actual discipline was economics, right? And he had, I think, two most important work. And one is a book talking about artificial intelligence. The other book is about decision making and problem solving. So here are in a diagram format what his basic ideas are. It looks very simple, but it is actually extremely important. Right? So there are two diagrams, two pictures. The picture on the left upper corner is a classification of problems. So we are solving problems. So when we talking about artificial intelligence, try to solve a problem, and I believe all the business students know that a successful business is a business be able to solve problem for the customer. So when the customer has a problem, you solve the problem for the customer, you make money. So that's basic assumption of business, right? So so his contribution, the first contribution is a classification. It's kind of like Darwin. Everybody know Darwin? Darwin is the biologist, and his contribution is what? To classify living things into different category of animals. Right? So it ends up with the theory of evolutions and that sort of thing. And so this is extremely important, very fundamental. He classified problem into a very simple category called a structured problem and unstructured problem. And in the middle, there are something called a semi-structured problem. And I believe many of you have seen this somewhere else in your management science or operation management class. They will talk about this. So there are three different problems, basically. In terms of organization hierarchy, the higher you go, usually you are solving a more unstructured problem. The lower you go go to the frontline worker, clerk, factory worker, they are solving more structured problem, right? So repeating job are usually structured problem. Right? So that's basic. Once you know, and actually one of the clue of how to use artificial intelligence and where the artificial intelligence will go come from here. So more and more artificial intelligence try to what? Go to that unstructured problem direction. It will start with a structured problem and then go to the direction of unstructured problem, right? So a lot of these, even though that we're talking about cutting edge stuff, but a lot of this fundamental knowledge are created that once you understand the meaning of this fundamental classification, you have I remember one of the things that when I was a student,